your your dad. I'm gonna sometimes say you
You can say, yeah,
instead
either
of your
either
dad.
or.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it looks like your terminal haplogroup or SNP is RFT153356, and you share this pattern with this group. Can you see my cursor here?
Yeah. Yeah, I can.
Okay. You share this pattern with like this whole group here of
Mhm.
12 in this DYS 391
Mhm.
STR. Um, so let me just go over. I'm going to show you a screenshot of David Vance's um, presentation he made on Y-DNA, and this would be helpful in explaining this. Okay, so when you're looking at this marker 12 or marker DYS 391, you have your dad has 12 short tandem repeats here,
Yeah.
whereas some of the other members of the group have 11 short tandem repeats.
Mhm.
So this like block of people right here
Mhm.
are probably more closely related than this block of people. Just it's not like hard and true, but you can just say they're probably more closely related. There was some
Okay.
kind of mutation that happened here that this branch of people all inherited, let's say.
Okay.
Now that's not entirely true, but it's a good way to think about it.
Okay.
So you can see that your closest match, your dad's closest match, is Mark Dalton um, on his Big Y test results.
Mhm.
And he also has the same terminal SNP as your dad.
Okay.
So I'm going to highlight this guy right in the middle here.
That mark.
Yep. So, oh, it ended up highlighting Mark. All right. So we'll
That's
just go with
fine.
that. So your dad is two below the highlighted
Yeah.
mark. Yep. Okay. So, um, all right. So you see, your dad has,
That's a lot of markers to spread out, isn't it?
yep. So look, you can see right here, your dad has a bunch of markers that are different mutations than Mark.
Yeah.
23, 24, 13, 21. So this isn't a real good representation of how closely related you are to someone.
Okay.
So you can see that we've obviously grouped you in the same group together, the same genetic family, saying that you are closely related. Um, but STR markers can only do, close.
Yeah.
Whereas now that we have these, the SNPs, this is what makes the difference.
Okay.
So the short tandem repeats that we were just talking about
Mhm.
are, you can see my little cross here I'm moving
Mhm.
around.
Yeah.
Okay. The short tandem repeats are like this: CTA, 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 CTA.
Hmm.
That's 4 repeats. So you can imagine right here you have 12 repeats at DYS 391. So let's say you have CTA, 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 CTA 12 times.
Yeah.
That's what it is right there.
Okay.
So a snip is not in one of those repeat sequences. A snip is outside of those repeat sequences.
Okay.
So what the snip is they have a reference, random, like 13 men that they used as a reference, and if they mapped out all of the A's, C's, G's, and T's, and if your father has one snip that's different from the reference, they'll catch it in their scans. So they'll say, okay, well, we expected uh, an A here, but there was a T.
Hello, Max. My cat
And then
decided this is very interesting.
and then so then his son's T mutated to an A, and all of his sons are gonna then have the A. And that generally only happens once with SNPs. So you'll only see this mutation on this specific marker generally only happens once.
Once
So
in how many
and
generations?
forever.
In
Like
forever.
there hasn't really been um indications of people with on these specific markers where they have back mutated or um mutated separately where someone else randomly mutates the same way. So these are really specific markers. That's why this testing is so powerful.
Hmm.
Um, so if this guy's son inherit and has a mutation, a SNP mutation to an A, all of his sons are going to have A's, and all of their sons are going to have A's, and all of their sons are going to have A's, and all of their sons from then on forever.
Okay. So that means that you can figure out how many generations removed you are from the mutation.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
So, but you notice here, son number 2, um, he did not mutate to an A.
And that's what causes the branching in the haplotree.
So he might mutate to this G over here, might mutate to a C, and then all of his sons would have C's,
Hmm.
and all of their sons would have C's, and that's how you would be able to map out where the tree, splits.
Okay.
So that's just like a little bit of basic background stuff. Um, all right. So I'm thinking that James Dalton here is probably the same James Dalton here. Have you talked to Mark much about his tree or?
Actually, I've been in contact. He's in New Zealand, and the tricky bit is that they think the family's from County Kilkenny, but they're not sure. Is that originally the family, while the records they've got say Kilkenny, that might be Waterford, because the counties are all in that southern part of Ireland. There's like 5 counties that all join sort of almost right at the same point.
Right. Yeah. Four Corners. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And you know well enough that the challenge with Irish research is the records are sort of spotty in a lot of places. If you get really lucky, the church records go back into the 1700s,
Right.
but we're not all
Yeah.
that lucky.
All right. So with Leo here, we're gonna just take a look, and I'm gonna try and explain the best I can. All right. So you just have like four options here. You have
Okay.
the block tree, matches, results, and the YSTR results.
Okay.
So we just talked about the YSTR results. Now you have 700 ish. So sometimes there's no calls and sometimes there's no shows. Um, I'll talk about those a little bit more here in a minute.
Okay.
Um, the matches is usually the first thing everyone jumps to.
Yeah.
With
Which is,
yours,
of
your
course, what I
dad,
did.
yeah, your dads are very cool.
Oh, they are? Okay.
I thought so anyway. Okay, so I'm talking the your dad's big matches, which are different.
Okay. Um,
Yep. So
I don't
these
know. Let
are
me see if I can get it to show me. I'm gonna log
no,
on to,
yeah, I've
okay.
got it here on my
Okay.
screen. Yep. Um so normally you look at, your dad's 111 matches here.
Yeah.
Um but or no, that's autosomal, I'm sorry. Your dad's 111 matches would be here. But now he has his big Y results. You can look at his big Y matches, which I've
Okay.
got a screen here. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So these are your dad's three closest matches.
Okay.
And then you have Purcell, which would be the next guy, Fred Purcell.
Hmm.
And then you have three Fitzpatricks.
Yeah. And I've been in touch with, I guess it's Mike Fitzpatrick and Ian, who run the Fitzpatrick Project. And they sent me a chart for the haplogroups that branch down, and it shows the distance between, come on, Max. My cat has decided that this is fascinating and he wants to be part of it.
All right, so your closest matches, your closest match is Mark,
Okay.
um, and then Jay Dalton, and then Mark Andrew. Now you can see the non-matching variants. These are the SNPs that either you or Mark do not share with each other.
Okay. And what does
So
that mean?
so you're let's just use like a theoretical here, okay?
Okay.
Can you see this one that's highlighted?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say this number here is Mark Dalton's father,
Okay.
and this number here is your dad's father.
Okay.
And then this number is your dad's grandfather. And then this is your dad's great grandfather, your dad's great great grandfather, your dad's great 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 grandfather, four times great grandfather, five times great grandfather. And then this is his dad, grandpa, great grandpa, great 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 great, five times, six times. So you guys meet at about seven times great grandpas here, approximately.
Okay. Unfortunately, the records aren't going to take us there.
Right.
So we can't
So
document that.
so you can, by having more people in this lineage, this specific lineage test,
Okay.
which I think probably quite a few of these people here do
Okay.
in this little block here.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, PJ, Bob, Walter. I'm thinking these guys are probably the closest
The ones that
in your
share
group.
12 markers on 391.
Yeah,
Probably also the ones that also share 30 mutations on what is that? Um, one of the other markers where we have commonality.
yeah. So there's a couple of Fitzpatricks. I think Eugene, your dad's other match, is in here. Fitzpatrick. So we have Mark highlighted there.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah,
Eugene.
there's
Yep, Eugene Fitzpatrick up here. He's the
okay.
third one down.
Yeah, but now that's a different haplogroup, or at least the terminal SNP
Right.
is different.
And I'll show you that here in a second.
Okay.
So you got the three Daltons, then the Purcell, then the three Fitzpatricks.
Okay.
Um, so this is the haplotree. If you click on that from your dad's page,
Okay.
and this is the branch that you fall in. This is your terminal haplogroup here, FT153356.
Okay.
So it says that you have average of 6 private variants. So that means that you have about 6 and Mark has about 6.
Okay.
You might have 7, he might have 6, something like that, but we
Okay.
can count them and figure it out if you wanted. Um so this block here is your terminal SNP here.
Okay.
FT153356. But they have 4 different numbers underneath it here, but they're all in the same block. So they don't know how to sort these numbers out.
Ah,
So
that's why
so
family tree DNA says that these numbers may change.
right, exactly. So let's say you have a fifth or a sixth cousin that does a Y DNA test, and they do a big Y DNA test.
Okay.
So maybe one of these people, that we were just talking about that are close, close in STR patterns, um, they might be a fifth or a sixth cousin that you're unaware of.
Okay.
So
Well, I know who the most likely closest match is, and that's from paper trail research. Kieran Dalton, who's only tested to 67 markers, is the only person I know of who traces back to County Waterford for sure. And
yeah, so I mean, I would even recommend using like the funds that you have for the group fund to upgrade her test to a Y, a big Y DNA test,
okay,
because we have so much data here to work with. So it's really good to see, like, you got I was like surprised when I looked at your dad's matches and saw that you had, 3 Daltons really closely related. Like, that was pretty exciting. So I mean, if you just imagine, surnames began in Ireland and England around like 1100 AD.
yeah,
So the likelihood that Jay Dalton and Mark Dalton and Mark Dalton and Leo Dalton um, just randomly just both became Daltons out of nowhere. Like, it's more likely that somewhere from 1100 AD, after surnames became popular and began being passed down through male generations,
Mhm.
um, it's so probably this FT 12563 or FT 12974. These guys were probably born, like, let's say 11 or 1200.
Okay.
This is just kind of like theoretical here.
Okay.
And then let's say, there was a couple of more snips that you share with John or Jay and Mark. You have these three snips that you share in common with all four of these people have these three snips.
Okay. So that means that we're more closely related to each other than to other people in the DNA genetic family.
Right. So Fred Purcell over here, he does not have any of these three snips.
Which is probably why he's a Purcell and not a Dalton.
Right. So this RFT 12974,
Mhm.
this man might have been born before surnames began.
Okay.
So I mean, it's possible. He might have been born, let's say 1000 AD.
Yeah.
And then this guy, RFT 12563, he was born during the time when surnames were being used and had the surname Dalton. And then this guy, one of these 7 private variants that this guy has, was born and had the surname Purcell and passed that down. That's just theoretical, but I mean, as more people test, it'll prove that out even more.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Um, so it says average of 6 private. Oops, I gotta. This results tab. You get named variants, private variants, and matching variants.
Okay. What's the
And
difference?
see, my computer is being so wonky. It's not even loading them now. All right, so private variants. Reload the page. Private variants are variants that only your dad has. Here we go. No, these are the named.
Okay.
Okay, so named variants are SNPs that other people already have and they've already named.
Okay.
So they've already given a number to. So, for instance, your Fitzpatrick cousins. I believe this is 1498 is one of them.
Mhm.
So this is a common ancestor that you share with the Fitzpatricks, A1498. This SNP here is already been named because they already tested and Family Tree DNA named them. Your dad has 6, yeah, 6, no, 5 private variants. You might have had 6 yesterday.
As
So
they said, it keeps changing.
yeah, so you have 6 private variants here. That means only your dad has these 6 SNPs.
Of all the people that FTDNA has tested, he's the only one where this shows up.
Yep.
Well,
And
that's pretty
and
cool.
they have not named these yet.
Okay.
So let's say this one at the top here, 159 54602. Let's say this is your grandpa, and then this is your great grandpa, 189 7667, and then this is your great great grandpa. Now that's just theoretical because not everyone has a mutation. On average, mutations occur every other generation.
Okay.
So this could be your great 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 grandpa, and this could be your great 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 grandpa. But I mean, this could be your grandpa, and this could be your great grandpa, and this could be your great great grandpa.
Okay.
Now, let's say you have a second or a third cousin that does a big Y test. Um,
Well, I don't have any male cousins. I do have my father's only surviving brother,
how
who
many greats is your brick wall, Dalton,
um
from your dad?
the the furthest back I've gone with paper trail is to my great great grandfather.
Your great great, so your dad's great grandfather.
Right.
Okay, so now you don't know who your dad's two times great grandfather or three times or four times great grandfather.
Right.
Okay, so
And even his great grandfather was really iffy there for a while.
let's say some of those, some of those men, the three times, four times, five times great grandfathers had other children, and then they had male descendants that have done a Y-DNA test.
Mhm.
Um, which actually Mark could be, like a third or fourth cousin then through the Dalton line,
Yeah, he
I
could.
suppose. Um, so this is where it gets a little complicated. Um, this is one of your dad's private SNPs that nobody else has. Novel variant.
Cool.
Now the reference is a T. This is the SNP that they tested here.
Hmm.
Um, and the SNP marker is 26,390,710.
Just in case we're going to go look for it.
Yeah. So what you're looking at is the green and blue lines are forward and reverse scans.
What does that mean?
So this is next generation sequencing. They use a sequencer. It's kind of like a camera sweep. So if you look at it, forward scan would be blue, and they scan it this way,
Yeah.
and they see that the reference value is a T. So if you remember, I said they have a reference of some random 13 dudes from Iowa, um, or something that they use as a reference,
Hmm.
and your dad's. So those 13 dudes all have T, but your dad has a C here. So that's what they call a SNP, is when it's different from the reference. So
Okay.
when they do the camera sweep, they did it like, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 times here. Um, and every single time they had a C. So it's pretty high confidence level that your dad has a C here and not what they expected, which was a T.
Okay.
So
And
that's how they come up with that. Okay, he does have a SNP here because everybody else has a T, but your dad has a C. So
okay. And the other pink things that only show up like on one lot that showed up on one
those
scan
are
but not on the other ones.
those are kind of like errors.
Okay. So
Yeah,
on one of the scans that popped up, but when they did another pass over the genes, it didn't show up. So
right.
it's
So
kind
they did
of
20
a glitch.
passes. they did 20 passes here on this G, and one time out of 20 a T popped up. It might have just been this T and this T that's next to this G.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? That
yeah,
popped up
yeah,
here. So it might have been an error when the camera was scanning it. Um,
yeah. I
that's
can't imagine the technology that comes up with this.
but yeah, so it's pretty confident that, this is a snip here because um so that's what they're showing you is, high quality, medium quality, you know,
Yeah.
that they're confident that this is a novel snip that your dad only has compared to
Okay.
everyone else.
Okay.
So if you compare these novel snips that your dad has,
Hmm.
if I just copy this and I go to your dad's matches here, and then I paste uh, find. There we go. So I just find on page all your dad's matches that do not have this number as one of their snips. So the three Fitzpatricks, none of them have 15954,602.
Okay, that's why it shows up as yellow instead of orange.
Right. I just highlighted them. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Mark Dalton, Jay Dalton, and Mark Andrew Dalton does not have 159. Only your dad has this snip.
Okay.
So um, if you were to go through and look at your dad's private variants, you would see that your dad has these five numbers only to him.
Hmm.
So five of these numbers in each of these lists is those five numbers. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that meant.
All right, so let me try this again.
And I understand that these are unique.
Yep, these are your, like, let's say this is your grandpa, this is your great grandpa, your great great grandpa, your great great great, your great 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 great. So this is your four times great grandpa.
Okay.
So Mark Dalton does not have a SNP mutation for your your grandpa, your great grandpa, your great 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 grandpa, your great great great, your great 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 great. So all five of these numbers, these aren't the actual numbers, but all five of these numbers are crossed out because you do not you have these five numbers, but Mark does not.
Okay. So if I'm understanding this correctly, that means that the common ancestor must be
You're
further back
five
than that.
you're five times at minimum you're five times great grandpa.
Okay.
Yep. Now that's not 100% true. This is kind of theoretical, just to try and get a basic understanding.
Okay.
It's a little bit more complicated than that
I'm
because
sure it's a lot more complicated than that.
sometimes there's no calls and no shows, so they can't tell. Sometimes that camera scan that we were looking at
Mhm.
can't tell. Sometimes it only gets like one or two, or maybe let's say it gets 10 out of 20, and it's not super confident that it's an actual snip.
Yeah.
So sometimes that happens and you lose a snip or he loses a snip, vice
Yeah.
versa. But it's pretty accurate. It's just sometimes, you lose a snip or he does. So you can't say it's like precise, 100% accurate. This is this. And, there's a little bit of statistical variance in this. So
Yeah.
just got to be aware of that. Um, all right. So now, if you were to look at Mark Dalton's results, you would say that he has 6 private variants probably as well. Let's say it's these top 5 here. Um, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say these 5 are private only to him. So, and then these 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are private only to you. Um, Now let's say maybe these other 4 or 5 might just be no calls or no reads, I
Okay.
guess, on one or the other test result. I mean, you're talking about, I think, 57 million base pairs here, so,
Jeez.
um, it's pretty accurate. I think you're reading 85,000, or no, yeah, 850,000 shared, SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms. So you and Mark have 850,000 SNPs that are different than the reference value. You guys both share this many.
Okay.
They've named one, two, three, 4 of these SNPs in this block. Father, grandfather, great grandfather, great great grandfather, but they don't know the order that they go in. So you would have to, if you wanted to sort this all out perfectly, you would have a male first cousin to your dad do a Y-DNA test, big Y 700, and then you would have to have a second male cousin to your dad do a big Y 700, and then a third cousin male descendant do a big Y 700, and then a fourth cousin
Okay.
male descendant, and then you would separate each one of these numbers. They would put them out on the tree just like your genealogical tree would look like. It
Okay.
would separate them out. Um,
Well, unfortunately, I don't have the male
right. I mean, that's like an
tree to do
ideal
that.
situation or something, but
Um, I got,
that's just kind of like theoretical to like give you an idea of how this works.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if you go up here, if you click on this up arrow, it takes you to the next ancestor up in the tree, which is A1496, because you always name them by the top number in the block.
Okay.
The top number in the block here is A1496. That's your shared ancestor between you and the Fitzpatricks and the Purcells.
Okay.
So you are over here. You and I know, I think you're in this branch. You're like a branch off from this one, the Purcells, yeah. So if you look, here's you and Mark, and then here's Jay and the other Mark, and you can see you guys share a common ancestor a little bit further back.
Hmm.
And then the Purcells share a common ancestor at FT12974, and then that's FT12974 here. And then let's say his dad is 1496 and his brother is 1488. And then his brother had a bunch of children that had the Fitzpatricks.
Okay.
So that's kind of how you read these trees is um, the name of the SNP is always the top number in the block. And these blocks will get smaller and smaller as more people test and have
Okay.
these SNPs.
Okay. There's one thing that I do have a question about that's different from this, and that's from when I looked at the matches at 111 markers, there's a column on the match table that's big Y STR differences, and it's the number is 10 out of 618.
Yeah.
And what the heck does that mean?
So family tree DNA promises something like 550, or no, it's more. It's like they promise like 650 or 600. I don't remember the number exactly. They promise a certain amount of extra short tandem repeats when they do the big Y.
Yeah,
So you have 111 solid,
yeah.
and then you do the big Y 700. 700 minus 111 is 589. They promise like 550. So there's a lot of no calls and no shows in some of these regions
Where
with
there's
the
just no
testing.
value at that marker.
And there's no real value in the matching STRs genealogically at these higher numbers yet, really. I mean,
Okay.
hardly anyone's done them. And plus, you got the snip tree. It's already showing you how closely related you are to your closest matches.
Hmm.
So the value of the amount of STRs that you're matching on now is kind of like just for science. Like,
Okay.
um, all right. So yeah, so you have 10 out of
Yeah, that's
618 with J here. Um, so out of 618 STRs, you know how normally you have 111
mhm.
and you have a genetic distance of 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So you have a genetic distance with J at 10 out of 618 of your markers.
Okay.
So it's not saying out of 700, even though you both did big Y 700, maybe he did the big Y 500 and you did the 700. So he's got, you know, 200 less. He might have done it. It doesn't tell you here, but he might have done the big Y 500 because I remember they were offering that a few years back.
Yeah, and
They
then
changed it to the
they changed
700
it to-
STRs.
yeah.
There's not a whole lot of extra value in the STRs, so it's not really that big of a deal. But just know that out of 618 STRs, you and Jay only have 10 that are different from each other.
Okay. So that tells me that if the distance is 8 at 111 but 10 at 618, that's actually a higher degree of precision than the 111 would indicate.
Right. Yeah. So they used a different method of testing for these STRs. That's why they added so many on.
Okay.
So they're scanning for these SNPs and they're not really necessarily looking for the short tandem repeats.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different method of testing. So the
You can't.
accuracy isn't as good for the additional like 500 STRs.
So you
But
can't really compare the two.
but out of 618 you only had 10 differences. I mean, there might have been a few errors here or there, but I mean that's still giving you a pretty good idea that
Mhm.
you and Jay are pretty closely related. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and if you look through,
Yeah, there you'll see
Yep, Mark.
Mark actually shows up at a distance of 3, but up above is Kieran. Now Kieran has not gone beyond 67 markers. Um, and he and I actually know each other and from DGS meetings and have exchanged a lot of emails, and we know we have County Waterford heritage in common. So I think I'm probably more closely related to Kieran than I am to Mark.
Okay. Yeah, so I would
I just have
definitely
to talk
recommend.
him into upgrading his test.
Right. I mean, and we have the funds in the group fund to do it, and I think this would be like a good example of like what we can show people that they can do with this kind of testing.
Yeah.
So you could probably like ultimately if you had enough people test in this little clade that you're in, you and your dad and Kieran and Mark and the other Mark and Jay, if you got more people in this like general vicinity to do the big Y test, you
Hmm.
could actually like build out this really cool looking tree. It shows how they're all related to each other, just not have names. So you could have all their brick wall names.
Hmm.
Like here's James Dalton, here's Henry Dalton, here's John Dalton, all their brick walls. And then his father was FT15765. His dad was FT1359, and then his son was A1498. And you could that's how you could show how closely related all of these guys are.
Okay.
Um, I mean, the funds are just sitting there, the $500. I don't think people would object to, spending a couple $100 to in the name of advancing the Dalton.
I feel a little guilty because it helps me probably more than most people.
So we could start off with trying to do this with someone from Group A then, if you were, you know, like there's more representatives of people from Group A.
And a
So
bunch of
looking at
people did follow your advice when we sent out that email about doing the upgrade. I think
right,
we got 4 or 5 people in group A
yeah.
to do the upgrade. And I think we just haven't gotten all the results back yet. I mean, I
Well,
upgraded my dad in November and I'm just getting the data now. So
yeah, so the only results we've gotten back from the Christmas sale right now has been your dad and Linda um on the
Linda
Facebook
Grundle?
group. Yeah. Is she a member of the DGS?
No, she's not.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to nudge her.
Yeah. Yeah, I would recommend tell her that I can give her more advice if she joins the
Okay, we'll use you like bait.
Yeah, she's down here. G. She's in genetic family G. Elmer Lee Dalton, I think, is her brother.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. So she upgraded on her own volition to upgrade to the big Y here. She
Oh,
did it
that's
over
great.
the Christmas sale. But her brother and your dad were the only ones that came back in the last batch.
Okay.
So the next batch will probably see a big group of the genetic family A people,
Yeah.
and then I can go over, how closely related they are to each other. It looks like you might have one here that did a big Y, Kenneth John. So he's by himself in this whole big group of A's. Kenneth John is the only guy that did the big Y, I think. Yeah.
Well, I think he's the only one we have results back from because I
Right.
know,
No, he might have did it like a year or two
yeah,
ago.
he might have done it a while back. I mean,
Yeah.
because a
So
lot of people do just on their own. Go ahead.
so I saw. Yeah, I think I saw at least 5 or 6 people that
Yeah, I was
upgraded.
trying to keep track of it, and I think there's like 5 or 6.
Yeah. So I think when we get their results, we'll be able to see like how closely related they are to each other.
Well, the big mystery with genetic family A is they have actually traced back to the early 1700s in colonial Virginia. And the big mystery is the common ancestor Irish or English? So if we could answer that question, that's like practically knowing the mystery of life.
I mean, I can probably already tell you it's Irish. It looks like right here RM222. That's, you know, you're talking, these are all Irish lineages here. Let me look at
Okay.
Kenneth John's big Y, where he's at on the tree. Now, Irish is kind of a relative term too. I mean,
Well,
you,
and it's so funny with members of the DGS. I mean, there are people who really want to be Irish and people who really want to be English.
okay, so we got
This is Kenneth.
yeah, Kenneth, and one of his close matches is saying Ireland and the other one saying England.
Well, that figures, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Nobody said it would be easy.
So DF105 A1260. This is kind of a rare branch. That's interesting. Yeah, I guess I can't really say that it's Ireland. It could be either.
Well, when you get into the cross-pollination between Scotland and Northern Ireland, it really muddies the water.
So you got some typical Irish markers here, RDF23 and RM222. You know, some people theorize Neil of the Nine Hostages or whatever. So you
Well,
got a lot of
when I
you got a
first
lot
thought,
of
go ahead.
Irish flags here. So I mean, but that's quite a ways back. I mean, if you look at
Yeah,
this list of snips,
yeah,
and that's
that's it.
not always every generation either. I mean, that's
Yeah.
every other generation. So,
When I and if you can mm,
zoom in.
zoom in on the file, down at the bottom, it lists the surnames that they have associated with those branches. And the Daltons are all in the green block and sort of towards the middle.
Give me 1 second. I don't know how to zoom in on this.
Um,
Maybe if I download it, I can zoom it in. So is that? Oh, here's your.
yeah, there's the Daltons and the Purcell one is there too. What's really interesting is that Fitzgerald also shows up, and that's
Yeah.
my great grandfather married a Fitzgerald.
Yeah, they did a nice job here. It's kind of hard to see the detail when it's zoomed in.
Yeah. I will look at where it is. I think I got it off their group on Family Tree DNA, off their page. And what I'll do is just see if I can send you the link, and then you may be able to have better luck enlarging it.
Fitzgerald and Fitzpatrick, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I'm sure somebody put a lot of work into that. And what's nice is that it's got time frames, estimated time frames. That's what the numbers in blue are.
Uh-huh. 1560, huh?
Yeah.
Oh. So this right here, this block is between, this is probably you and Mark, and this is probably Mark and Jay. And then I'm not sure who they're
I'm not
basing.
sure. Yeah, I'm not sure who that's based upon.
But yeah, this 533. Oh no, okay, I got it. So this is all right. So this is probably Leo, your dad,
Mhm.
and then this is probably Mark with a
Okay.
C, and then this is probably Mark with a K, and this is probably J.
Okay.
Because 153356 is only you and Mark with a C are the
Yeah.
only two. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I can't read what that says. I think it says about 1500 CE.
Well, up above it says 1560.
50. Yeah.